Colleen, how you doing?
Hi. Hey,
No,
Stevie.
a super duper time crunch today, and we appreciate you being flexible and joining us. Let me see. I made you co-host.
See that.
Let me put you on spotlight. Bring you front and center. For everybody to see.
Very close.
Hey. Well, how are things in Arizona?
Cold.
Cold.
Is unusual.
I think 7 or 8 inches of snow last night here, so
Oh, it's not that cold.
it's a mess. But I had to shovel the driveway this morning, so this is my Texas weather.
I was at which is, unbearable for us, but I was at my kid's baseball game yesterday. It was 48 degrees with 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And I was like, get me. I actually went home. I lasted 2 innings. I'm like, I can't do this. Sorry.
It's horrible weather for you. Well, usually we'd talk a little bit and bring Cindy
I
on.
see it's only 1:59. I'm gonna wait. I'll let people come in till about 2:05, 2:06,
Okay, good.
and then I'll start.
I have been working on paperwork today. I bought a house, a bank
For
auction.
yourself?
Actually, I bought it yesterday, but get all the paperwork together and over the title today. So
Stevie, I like your background.
playing walk.
Oh, Stevie, I was talking to Stevie. I like your background.
Oh, Stevie. Hello, hello. Oh, I like that. Very nice. Let's see who is all here and do we have chats recorded? Yes. All right, looks like we're good to go. So was the game canceled yesterday?
No,
Because you just
no.
said enough. You went home.
I'm not gonna lie. All day I was hoping they would cancel it, and I did not get lucky. So I drove an hour the last 20 minutes to go home.
So what's the real estate news in Phoenix? How's the market out there?
Strangely enough, I don't know if you guys know, if you follow, rates went up about 0.5% over the last week or two, which was expected. They might come back down. They'll probably come back down this summer. But they went up about 0.5%. And strangely, we've got more people putting multiple offers on houses. I don't know what's going on right now.
Is it just pent up demand?
I think it's because spring is coming.
Yeah.
The people that wanted to wait through the winter, I really think it's just that.
People need a place to live. So
Yeah.
some things don't change.
Shane, I'll give it about 4 more minutes.
All right. 4:01.
Yeah.
Hey there.
Hi, Cindy.
Just hiding. Cindy and I are also working on a couple of mobile home deals. We got a couple LOIs out, and just before this call, I got a response back. So
sorry, I'm driving. I apologize. You know me, Colleen. I had to go do my 30-minute of working out. So I'm not a crazy lady. So I just got done. I'm gonna put
there's a joke
myself
there. I'm sure there's a joke there somewhere, but we'll leave it be.
She splits her days with the workout. I can't do that. I have to do it in the morning. I can't do it in the middle of the day. I don't like to split it in half like that.
I'm either a morning or end of the day type of person. I agree with you. So yeah, we also have a mobile home park in Texas that's in due diligence phase. So we'll see how that works out. There's a few things that we've asked for that they haven't provided, so giving them an ultimatum.
Is it financial stuff?
Yeah.
Important.
Imagine that. Yes. You said it was gonna be this, and can you now provide the evidence, please? Crickets.
What part of Texas are y'all in, Shane?
That one is down in Westlaco, which is right down by the border.
Where are y'all out of?
I recently just moved out of Dallas, and Cindy's in Phoenix, and our partner Caleb's in Houston area.
Gotcha. I'm from the Austin area.
Austin, yep, great area.
I live in Phoenix now, though.
She's here with me.
So, what made you move to Phoenix?
Family,
Family.
yeah. I still have family in Texas, but came out here to be with my mom.
It's important. Not getting any younger, mom especially.
Hi guys, I might get going here. A couple of things, guys. So this one is a little bit earlier than usual, and that's because I messed up and had a scheduling conflict and had to move this time earlier. So I see there's probably only about a quarter of you guys, if there would be, maybe even less than that. So I'm going to schedule this to do again at another time. This is super duper 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 important, and it's something that everybody in real estate needs to know how to do. So I'm super passionate about it. I've been teaching how to do comps for about 1.5 years now. I love doing it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll go through this whole thing, but a couple of things. One, I'm on a super time crunch today, and it's normally takes me about 1 hour and 45 minutes to get all the way through properly, and to make sure that I get everything that I need to get. And I only have about 1 hour and 15 today. So I've condensed just the tad. Also to get me out the door on time, and to make sure that I get all the way through, because if I only get 3/4 of the way through, you guys, I may as well have not done it at all, because you're not going to get all the info that you need, and you'll be left hanging. Okay. And since that's the case, and I have to cut it off at 1 hour and 15 today, I'm not going to be taking any verbal questions while I'm speaking during this presentation. Okay. If you want to put them in the chat, that's okay. If I have time at the end, I will get to that. And hopefully I have a few minutes to do that, but I can't stop and take any verbal questions in the interim. I have to be able to get all the way through. This is being recorded. So you will be able to go back through this tomorrow if you need be, or even tonight, whenever Shane or Cindy post it. Also too, I'm going to go ahead and pick another time to go through this whole thing, again. My presentation is visual. You're going to need to be able to see my screen, which I'm going to share in just a minute. So it also too, it is one, it's pretty comprehensive, but two, it is very content dense. So you're gonna want to take notes. And so what I'm talking about today, if you didn't see it on the schedules, I'm talking about how to comp property. And so this is going to be how to comp property that is single family. Okay, this isn't going to be housing portfolios. It's not going to be multifamily. It's not going to be apartment complexes. It won't be, and I can do a class on that. I actually teach another class as a whole separate thing that takes about another hour, which I can do. If people request to do that, I can do that. But today is just going to be just for single family housing for those of you that are looking for Airbnbs or long-term rentals or short-term rentals or whatever, maybe just a house for yourself. Or if you're wholesaling specifically too. Let me go ahead and share my screen so I can see what I'm talking about here. So this is what I call, can somebody say out loud, yes or no, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is what I call comping basics. So all of the rules here that I'm going to go through is how you comp property, regardless of you buying short-term, long-term, a house for yourself, or wholesaling. But a lot of the terminology that you're going to hear me use, or a lot of the examples you're going to hear me use, is geared towards wholesalers, because I've had this curriculum put together for 1.5 years, and I was a wholesale coach for 1 year. So I'd already had this put together. Most of the terminology you're going to hear is for that. But just please know that the rules are the same, regardless of the reason why you're buying this particular single family. Okay, the value of the home isn't going to change depending on the reason that you're buying it. Does that make sense? So first and foremost, let me give you some background as to why I teach this class and how I got here. I worked for a new home construction company in my 20s for about 9 years. We did everything from underground to frame stage, and I did everything from admin all the way up to project management for the last few years. So I'm super knowledgeable in the construction space. Stayed home for a few years when I had kids. When I was ready to go back to work, I went into real estate. I've been a realtor in Arizona for 12 and a half years. Most of that was residential retail. The last couple of years has been mostly just the investment space. I do still do some retail, but I moved mostly into the investment space. I learned that what my strengths were put me more into that space. And what that got me was a wholesale coach gig. A company reached out to me in Tennessee about a year and a half ago. They say, hey, we know who you are. We want you to be our wholesale coach. Wasn't looking for that opportunity, took it up anyways, absolutely loved it. So I was a wholesale coach for about a year. The majority of what I taught was how to comp single family, multifamily, single family housing portfolios, apartment complexes, things like that. Super duper loved it. Unfortunately, that company went under dang near overnight, so I'm no longer doing that. Stevie was a little bit of a part of that though, so she's been through my comps class before, so I'm so happy to have her back. First, before I get going, I want you guys to know, and I'm going to take a guess that most, if not all of you, did not know this. You guys, realtors are not taught how to comp property. I'm going to say that again because it's the truth and it's the unfortunate truth. Realtors are not taught how to comp property. Most of them wing it. Okay, it's not taught in our education when we get licensed. It's not part of our state testing. When you go and join a broker, you are not taught how to do this. We are left to our own devices. So I took it upon myself in the last, I've been a realtor for 12 and a half years. I really started digging deep into this about 6 or 7 years ago. And I took it upon myself to take every single appraisal class I can get my dang hands on. Okay, so this is how I am qualified to be saying what I'm saying and how I know what I know. Okay. I just took my last one. I do it every chance I get. I just took my last one about 2 or 3 weeks ago at a title company. There was an appraiser that came in doing a 3-hour class, and I always join the ones that I can, and I always learn something new, always stay sharp. Things are always changing. Okay, so that's where I come from. Those are my qualifications. I'm going to go ahead and get going. When you guys find a property that you are interested in, whether you're wholesaling or whatever it is that you're looking for, putting your house on the market if you own one and you want to sell it, and you start talking to a realtor. Okay. This is how you're going to comp property. First and foremost, number one rule is single stories only comp to single stories. 2 stories only to 2 stories, basement homes to basement homes, mobile home to mobile home, townhouse or row house. For those of you guys who live in an area that have row houses instead of townhouses, it's kind of the same thing. Townhouse to townhouse. There are 0 times in the history of the rest of the world that you can ever cross any of those with another one. There are 0 reasons to ever do that. They are not comps, okay? Guys, the word comp is short for comparable. So we are talking, you want an apples to apples comparison on your subject property. If you're going single family or single story to 2-story, that is apples to oranges. That is not the same comparison, and they cannot be comped against each other, okay? So that's rule number 1. The type of housing is very important and you need to know. I will show you. For those of you guys, now I am a realtor. That does not mean that I have necessarily much more info than any of you guys can find on the internet public record in terms of comping. I don't really have a leg up on you, and I will explain to you when I get through the sheet right here. I will show you on Zillow what I'm talking about. It is all you need. You do not need a realtor. You don't need to have realtor access. You do not need to have the MLS, Zillow, or realtor.com. I prefer Zillow is all you need, and I'll show you what I mean and how to find this information that I'm going to give you here today, okay? Your comps need to be inside of a mile away, preferably half a mile if you can. What I don't want you to do is skip over comps that are within a half a mile to go out to ones that are a little bit further, okay? And that is, for those of you guys who knows what that means, it is as the crow flies, okay? Zillow doesn't have a very good mapping feature. It's a little tough to do that in Zillow. I will show you how I do it to kind of eyeball it. For the most part, but you do need to know how far away your comps are to your subject property. It has to be inside of a mile. Again, much preferably a mile, much preferably in the neighborhood or that house is in if they're there, okay? There are a few reasons why you can go out further than a mile if you need to, and they are very specific, okay? Houses that are in gated communities can only be comped against houses in other gated communities. Waterfront property, golf course lots, Age restricted properties, if you don't know what that means, we have a ton of those here in Phoenix. That's the 55 and over communities where you have to be 55 and over to live. The reason why those are some reasons that you can go a little bit further than a mile if you need to is because they have a higher dollar per square foot when they sell because of the amenities that they offer. Golf course lots are much more expensive than non-golf course lots. Waterfront lots are much more expensive than non-waterfront lots. You can go a little bit further out to find a comparable property that has the same type of feature because they are going to sell for more than other houses in the area, and that matters. You need to do your due diligence and make sure that you're doing apples to apples comparisons. When you are searching out for your half mile to mile radius, again, as the crow flies, okay, that's a radius. What you don't want to be is to be jumping over a freeway or a major fairway, highways, going across rivers or cross bridges. Sometimes, most of the time, even going over railroad tracks. And that's not every time. That's not a hard lesson there, but oftentimes not even just railroad tracks. I'll show you on Zillow for my example. I'm going to show you how to comp today what I mean by that, but you aren't going to want to go because what happens is you can very easily get yourself in a type of neighborhood that's not the same type of neighborhood that your subject property is in. And I'll get a little bit more into that here in just a minute. You also don't want to be crossing zip codes if you can help it, okay? Let alone going into the next city or town. You don't want to be doing that either if you can help it. The biggest reasons, well, there's two big reasons why is one, if the property taxes are much drastically higher or much drastically lower than the one that your subject property is in, whether that be a zip code or a city or a town, then you're doing yourself a disservice because those houses are either going to be more expensive, higher dollar per square foot and a higher property tax, or they're going to be lower dollar per square foot and a property taxes that are much lower. And the biggest reason is for the school zones. You guys, school zones and the quality of the schools in that zone can drastically sway property taxes too, or also property values. It's both, actually. It can sway both. So you don't want to be necessarily jumping zip codes if you can help it. Similar style neighborhoods, going back to why I don't want you to be jumping freeways, rivers, highways, bridges, all that kind of stuff. If you're going to be moving out of your subject property's specific neighborhood to find a comp, that is a-okay. You can do that if you need to, but that other neighborhood needs to be a very similar style to your subject property. What I mean by that is if your subject property is this cute little Cape Cod with wraparound porch and all the houses in your neighborhood are like that, you know, and you go to the neighborhood next to you, but those are all brick homes with large lots, like, because that's not a similar type of neighborhood and those aren't going to be your comps. So that's the biggest reason why you don't want to be jumping over freeways, highways, things like that. So you can use this website that I have on here. It is instantstreetview.com if you need to. And if you've never used it before, it is this really cool website where you type in an address and it plops you down right in front of the home, a Google Street View, okay? And you can do a 360 view. You can walk down the street, walk down the other side of the street, go around the corner, walk. You can walk the neighborhood. It's freaking cool. You want to make sure that the neighborhood, so if you see a comp that you're like, maybe that is, type in that comp address and walk around Little Street. Make sure that that neighborhood is just like the one that your subject property is, and if you're needing to leave your neighborhood. To go down just a little bit more detailed, you need to also have similar style homes. So construction material matters. Again, when I get onto Zillow, I will show you how I find this out most of the time. It does matter. I could do this by eyeball because I worked in construction for so long. I know not everyone can do that. So I do sympathize there. Zillow does a pretty good job of telling you what it is, not all the time, but most of the time, and I'll show you how to do that. But if your subject property is a brick home, you can only comp it against other brick homes. Okay, if your subject property is wood framed, you can only comp it against other wood frame, slump block to slump block, etc. Okay, they have to be similar styles of homes. That is apples to apples. You can't have a brick home and think you're going to try to comp that to a wood frame or a siding, okay, or anything like that. That is not apples to apples, and those are not your comps. You're doing yourself a massive disservice if you're trying to comp two different properties like that to each other. Okay. That goes for the same with the roof. The rooftop needs to be the same. If your subject property has a shingle roof, you were looking for other houses with shingle roofs. Okay. Tile to tile, rolled to rolled. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a rubber material. It's called elastomeric. It's a lot of like the flat roofs, like patio roofing. is made of, but there's other types of roofs, parapet, which is also rolled roof. I'm not going to get that detailed into it, but you do need to know that if this, and you can use a Google view, like just the bird's eye view, do the Google Earth or whatever it's called, and zoom in to that subject property. It's going to be very obvious to you what that roof is going to look like, because you're going to get your eyes on it. Okay, so you don't have to have pictures. I mean, that helps a lot if you can see them from the street view, that's great. But if you Google zoom down, you can see what type of roof it is, and you have to have the same type of roofing. If you're trying to comp it against a house that otherwise is the same, but maybe that shingle roof had been, you know, upgraded to tile, that's a different story. It's something that we can get into a little bit later. I'm not really getting that level of detailed, but you do have to make a pretty massive adjustment for that. Okay, so to keep it simple, you're going to want the same year or the same style of roof, shingle to shingle, tile to tile. In terms of age of the home, you guys, this is more important than you think, and you have to check. I'll show you again on Zillow how to find this out. You do have to pay attention to this, particularly because there's a lot of infill lots. When we talk about Phoenix for a second, most of the Phoenix Valley is built on a grid system. It's a square mile grid system. Okay, so neighborhoods are kind of, sort of, a little bit square miles. And sometimes there's infill. I grew up in an area where houses were built in 1975. Okay, back in like 1997 or something like that, there was a small infill lot that got a new home builder came in and built houses there. Those houses were 22 years apart in age. That is not something that you can use as a comp, even though it's in the same neighborhood. Okay, so the age of the home is very important. It does need to be within about 5 years. All right, if your subject property is something back in the earlier 1900s, there's some leeway there to go a little bit further out. There's not necessarily like a cutoff. I'm not saying it's pre-1950, pre-1945, pre-1940. I'm not getting that detailed into it. Use some discretion and some common sense. If you have an earlier 1900s home, it is a-okay to go 10, 15 years if you need to. I'm not saying you can do a 1901 to a 1940. I'm not saying that, okay? But I am saying you could do a 1901 to maybe a 1915. That would be a little bit more acceptable. Just use some discretion there, right? While you have the sellers on the phone, or maybe it's the realtor, whatever it is, however you're acquiring this property, you need to do comps, okay? You need to take note of the age and condition of the major components of that house. Here in Phoenix, that'd be the AC, the furnace, and the roof. If you live in another part of the country and there's something of, you know, massive value, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 that would take to replace this component, please use that in place of whatever it is we have here that you don't have there. Okay, whatever the major component is of in the market that you're looking at, you need to know if that thing is new, old, needs to be replaced, and you need to adjust for it. I promise you, if you put an offer on a home that you did not ask about the AC condition, and it's got 2 AC units and it's going to cost you 22 grand plus maybe 3 grand in ductwork to replace it, you just got yourself wrapped up in a deal for $25,000 too high. If you did not ask and adjust for that, okay? Same with the roof. You need to know the condition of the roof. Particularly if you're looking at retail sales, and what I mean is the things that are on the MLS, things that are listed by a realtor. Okay, I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 times that realtor has no idea the age of the roof, didn't ask, has no idea the condition, age of the AC, probably didn't ask, nor did they probably even look. And they told the seller, hey, you can sell your house for $450, but that thing needs a brand new roof and 2 brand new AC units, and now it's worth $400, and they didn't even look. Okay, so you need to know and make adjustments for that. In terms of how long ago the house is sold, you know, there was quite a stretch there, a couple of years where you could have gone 6 months back and been a-okay. The last 4 or 5 months has been pretty volatile, particularly here in Phoenix, Texas, South Florida. You really right now want to stay inside of 3 months if you can. I would be remiss to say that 6 months is okay. I hate to say that. It's technically not. If you're going to do it, you guys are adults, you can make your own decisions. I say no. But this is your deal and it's your money on the line. You can if you really need to, but I'm going to promise you that you're going to want to try to stay inside of 3 months. Number of bathrooms and bedrooms. This is probably more important than people think it is too, you guys. Number of bathrooms are more important than bedrooms, and I'll explain why. A 1, 2, 3 bathroom home does need to be comped with other 1, 2, 3 bathroom homes. So a 1 to a 1, a 2 to a 2, a 3 to a 3. You guys, the reason why is that bathrooms have value. There's a literal dollar value that can be added to a home for having an additional bathroom over a house that doesn't. Okay, it's more expensive to build. It's worth more money. So you do need to pay attention to the number of bathrooms. If your house has half baths, and I'm talking 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, whatever it might be, you may round up. if your house has 2.5 bathrooms and you're struggle busing to find a couple 2.5 bathroom homes that you can round up to 3, it's perfectly acceptable. Let me explain as to why. And it's not an exact equal, but it's close enough that you don't need to really make an adjustment for it, because a half a bathroom is a bathroom. It is an actual another whole bathroom that has a sink and a toilet in it. It just doesn't have the tub and shower, okay? But it is an additional bathroom somewhere else inside that house somewhere. It is an actual bathroom, just doesn't have the shower or the tub. Not that ginormous of a deal, okay? So you may round up. I don't want you to round down, and the reason why is just because you're doing yourself a disservice. You'll be comping against properties that are a little bit lower value than yours, and you're going to be using those numbers, and it's going to give you a dollar amount for your house that's probably a little lower than it should be. It's hard to get this under contract if you're doing yourself a disservice and not allowing yourself to use houses that can get you a little bit more value, okay? Number of bedrooms. So there's some flexibility here sometimes. So a 1-bedroom, let's talk about a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom too, particularly. A 1-bedroom home, you guys, if you don't know this, is the single least desirable product that there is on the real estate market. Okay, most people don't want it. Almost no one's looking for it. They sell for a very low dollar per square foot. Most undesirable. Does not mean that it won't sell. I'm not here to say that. All 1-bedrooms will sell for the right price, but they have a much lower dollar per square foot than a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a 4. Okay, so does a 2. It is also not very desirable. It's a tad more desirable than a 1-bedroom, but not by a big stretch. So you don't want to be comping it against other 2-bedrooms. You don't want to be comping either one of those against a 3-bedroom. You're going to get yourself too high of a value for your property, and you're going to be massively skewing your numbers. Okay. So a 1 to a 1, a 2 to a 2. When you get to a 3-bedroom and up, you may, if you need to, go up or down a bedroom. Okay. You need to go 3 to a 4, that's okay. A 4 to a 5, that's okay. A 5 to a 6, that's okay. A 5 down to a 4 is okay. A 4 down to a 3 is okay. Okay. The reason why, as long as your house is similar in size, which we haven't gotten there yet and talked about in just a minute, unless maybe I skipped it on accident, and I'll go back to it. Actually, that's next. Your houses do need to be similar in size. So let's talk about that. That's the next one down anyway. So I'm gonna jump between the two of them here for a second. Your houses do need to be the same size. They need to be within a 10 or 15% size difference. If you don't know how to calculate that, please learn how to calculate, put a 10%, 15% size difference up or down on your subject property. Okay. A 2,000 square foot house, 10% up would be 2,200, 10% down would be 1,800. That's about the maximum that you should be going. That's a 10% difference. Okay, so please, if you don't know how to calculate that, please learn how to do it and know what your range should be. For a 2,000 square foot house, you should be between 1,800 and 2,200 for your comps. You shouldn't be going any more than that because you're going to be massively skewing your numbers. So let's talk about houses that are all around 2,000 square feet and number of bedrooms, because I told you I'm just going to piggyback, or I'm going to jump between the two of them here for a second. So you have 2, 3, 4 houses that are all comps. Some of them are 3-bedroom, some of them are 4-bedroom. I don't know what just happened with the light. Hold on 1 second. Let's turn the light back on. It didn't move enough. Let me explain why it's okay to go one off on a bedroom for houses that are the same size. It just means that the 3-bedroom house has another space in it that the 4-bedroom doesn't, but it's not a monetary value. Maybe it has a formal dining space. Maybe it has a second living room. Maybe it has a den. Okay, those are all fine. There's not really going to be a monetary value exchange for a 3-bedroom with a den or a 3-bedroom with a formal dining space than a 4-bedroom that doesn't have a den or a formal dining space. That's more marketability than it is a dollar value exchange. Okay, so that's why it's okay to go up or down 1 on a 3-bedroom plus if you need to. Again, it would still be best though to stick with all 3 bedrooms, all 4s, all 5s if you can find them. Again, you guys, the size difference does matter. You really need to be staying within about the same size. It is truly too different of a size to go 15-20% without making a monetary adjustment. I'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a few minutes, because it is not necessarily easy to do and to figure out what that dollar amount in your market's going to be, but you can make an adjustment there if you need to. Next one down, you do not need to comp a house with a pool to another house with a pool. Please do not kill yourself. If your subject property has a pool, please do not kill yourself trying to find another house with a pool. You don't need to. Again, with a garage and or a carport, okay, if you're in a neighborhood where you've got carports, some do, some don't, some have garages, some do, some don't. Some have a single bay garage versus a 2-car garage, some do, some don't. Please do not kill yourself to find houses that are the exact same to your pool, garage size, carport, okay? Everything else though, the size, the construction, the location, the roof, all of those things, those are the same. Find the houses that have all the same, whether they don't have garage, carports, or pools, okay? There will be an adjustment to be made for that, which I'll get into a little bit more in here in just a minute. But go ahead and use them, please. I hear people all of the time in the investment space say you can't do that. You absolutely 100% can. Please do, because what's happened, an appraiser isn't going to skip over that. And here's going back to what I was saying as to why I'm qualified to be talking about this, okay? I've studied hundreds upon hundreds of appraisals. And it's something that I highly recommend you guys do if you guys can get your hands on them in your markets, okay? And they will not, an appraiser will not skip over a home in the area, same size, same construction, same all of the things, just because it doesn't have a pool, does or doesn't have a garage, does or doesn't have a carport. It will not happen. They just will make an adjustment for it, okay? So you need to think like an appraiser, because that matters. Why? Because when you get funding for a home, what happens? You get an appraisal. There's no way around it. So you need to be able to use comps and get a value for your home that an appraiser is going to be using, okay? It matters very much so. All 3 of your comps, you guys, need to be in similar condition. Let me explain what I mean by that, particularly for those of you guys who are wholesaling. This is true anyway, okay? But this is particularly for those of you guys who are going to be wholesaling your properties, because typically wholesalers are looking for properties that are run down. Why? Because their buyer pool are fix and flip investors that have cash to spend. They want to buy shitholes, okay? So this is particularly for wholesalers, but this is the same rule for all of you guys, regardless of what you're looking for. All of your comps that you find your subject property need to be the same condition. What I mean by that is all 3 or 4 of your comps need to be shitholes, or all 3 or 4 of your comps need to be rehabbed. Okay, and I'll show you how to do value on both ways when I get there. It's a little bit further down into the presentation today, okay? But all of your conditions, all of your houses need to be the same condition. You cannot be using 1 or 2 rehabbed and then one's a shithole, okay? You can't use 1 or 2 shitholes and then one of your comps is rehabbed. They do not go together. If you think about what I said earlier today, is it an apples and apples to comparison? It is not apples to oranges. They have to be the same condition inside, okay? Those of you guys in non-disclosure states, if you don't know what that means, there are states out there. Texas was one of them. I think Montana is one of them. There are several of them, actually, 6, 7, or 8 or so. We call them non-disclosure states. They do not disclose what their house sales sell for. It is super unfortunate. Okay, they don't disclose it. There is nowhere that you can find it. The only way for you to find that is to enlist the help of a realtor. Realtors, and there's 3 people on this planet that can find out the info: a realtor, an appraiser, and a lender. Become friends with one of them. Become very good friends with one of them. Okay, you're going to enlist the help of one of the 3. You're going to send them some addresses. You can find all of this on Zillow. Again, even if you're non-disclosure, you do not need anything that a realtor does or doesn't have, myself included, okay? I will show you how to find your comps. It's just not going to have a dollar value attached to it. Guys, comps are houses that have sold. They're not pendings. They're not active. They're not under contracts. Those are not comps. Those are not comps. I don't care what another investor tells you, it's not a comp, okay? Sold property is your comp. There just will not be a dollar amount attached to it. Like if you look up a house that sold here last month in Arizona, it is public knowledge, no, the world can find it, okay? In those non-disclosure states, nobody can find it except one of those 3 people, but you need that dollar value. So what you do is I'll show you how to do it on Zillow, same as any other state. Nothing changes about any of the rules or how you do this. you find your comps with all the rules that I taught you today, and you find your 3 or 4 or 5 addresses, however many comps you have, at least 3. Okay, preferably at least 3. 4 or 5 is totally fine too. And you're just going to ask one of those 3 people, the realtor, the lender, or the appraiser that you just became friends with, just going to ask them what it sold for. Okay, I'm going to talk about that one more time because this gets very mixed into what I'm saying. I am not saying to go to a realtor and ask them what the value of your property is. Why? What did I say earlier today? Realtors are not taught how to comp property. It is extremely unfortunate. 98% of realtors on the planet do not know how to comp property properly. It's very, very, very sad. I don't know anybody, to be quite honest, who's ever gone through the level of education that I have to learn how to comp property. I don't know one other single person that has ever done that. We are left to our own devices for this, okay? Please do not ask a realtor to comp a house for you. I guarantee you 99.98% of the time it's gonna be off, all right? So you are going to go by the rules that I taught you today. You're going to find your own comps. You're gonna do all of the things that I taught you. You're just going to ask them what dollar amount did this house sell for, okay? The 3, the 4, the 5 addresses that you found, all right? I highly, highly, highly do not recommend using automated software such as PropStream, Privy, Batchlead. I actually don't even know all of the names of the software that offer comping systems, okay? Let me explain why I don't recommend it, and then let me explain what I do like about it, okay? Particularly, we're going to talk about is estimate. We're going to talk about whatever the realtor.com estimate is. I don't even know if it has a name. I'm not quite sure. I don't really use realtor.com or any of those estimates that any of those things give you, okay? Let me tell you why. It's not smart enough. Not even Zillow is not smart enough to follow the rules of comping, okay? It's comping single level to 2 stories. It's comping 1995 houses to 1970 houses. It's comping rehab to not rehabbed. It's comping, you know, waterfront to non-waterfront. It doesn't know. None of those systems are smart enough to know that. None of them are. Zestimates are historically always inaccurate. It can get lucky. It's known to get lucky here and there, okay? But you're not going to know that. Zillow doesn't know that. None of those softwares know that. You can use those softwares such as Privy and PropStream and Batchleads to do what I'm going to show you on Zillow. But I want you to be the one that chooses for yourself what the correct apples to apple comparison sold properties are around yours. So if you're not going to search on Zillow like I teach, that's perfectly acceptable. Please use Privy or Batch, whatever website, whatever software that you're using. I just don't want you to allow that software to adjust the numbers and to pick the houses for you. Just don't let it do that. I swear to you, and none of them are smart enough to know the difference between rehab, non-rehab, waterfront, not waterfront, ages, construction build, all that stuff, and it matters. You be the one to choose, okay, if you're going to use them. I am going to talk a little bit about some adjustments. I'm not going to deep dive into this, you guys, particularly because not everyone here is in Phoenix. So these numbers aren't going to be necessarily exactly the same, but there are adjustments that you can make to size. This is not in place of, though. Like if there are comps around yours that are comparable in size, you're going to want to use them. So I don't want you to skip over the ones that are true comps, to go for one much bigger, much smaller, that are not going to be the same. So, and it is not, I wanted to type this in here, but it was so much info, I wasn't quite sure how to say it right. It is not an exact dollar per square foot to dollar per square foot. So let me give you an example. You know what, I'm just going to type it here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I currently live in a 2,400 square foot house. Okay, it can sell for about 600K right now. Okay, I just moved into it 2 months ago. I moved into it from an 1,800 square foot house that can sell right now for about 525K. They are around the corner from each other. Okay, they are not very similar in size, but they are the exact same builder, same age. The interior is the exact same. One just happens to be 600 square foot bigger than the other. Okay, they are not necessarily comps. I cannot comp them against each other. But let's say I had to. Let's say I had to. There was no other chance. There was no other thing that I could do but to comp these two against each other. What you are not going to do. So this one right here at 600,000. This is 250 a square foot. That's what the math is on this. This house can sell right now for $250 a square foot, okay? The house I just came from, this dollar amount, it would sell for $288 a square foot. All right, let me show you what I mean by it's not an exact dollar square foot that you add or subtract to get a value. And this will prove it right here, okay? That 1,800 square foot house that sells for $288, if I were to make that 600 square foot difference, now that's the difference, 2,400 to 1,800, 600 square feet, correct? Most people, most realtors included, this is so sad, is gonna say, cool, that's 600 square foot difference, 1,800 square foot house sold for 288. That means that that house, that 2,400 square foot house can sell at 288 square feet. And that's gonna give you, it gives you like 700,000. I've already done the math. It's somewhere around 700,000. Nope, not true. No, not true. I can't sell for 700,000. Can only sell for 600. Vice versa, if your subject property was the 2,400 square foot house and you say, cool, my house is 2,400 square foot, I can sell for 600, that's 250 a square foot. That means that I'm gonna times that 600 square foot difference for the 1,800 square foot house by 250. That's gonna get you about did the math on it, I think it's 420,000. Nope, not true. You're 100,000 square feet off on that. That's not what that means. You cannot use, because they're so different in size, you can't use that. It is not the full dollar per square foot as an adjustment. That's not the way it is. Right now, it's about $125 a square foot adjustment in this area. But I know that, not just because I do real estate, but because I pay attention to the sales around my neighborhood, okay? And in the Phoenix market in general. It's about $125 a square foot to make an adjustment. If I needed to make a 600 square foot adjustment right now for those two houses, because they're so different in size, I would times it by 125. And that gets me 80K, which is about the exact same between my 600 and my 525 sell price. You guys see that? You cannot be using the full dollar square foot that you're seeing on these sales to make an adjustment on size. It's not the way it works. And this dollar amount may be different for your market. If you're in San Diego, it's going to be, a different dollar amount. If you're in Austin, wherever it doesn't matter where you're at. Okay. You need to find out what that is in your market to be able to make these adjustments. How do you find out? I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take appraisal classes. Because if you're in a title state, meaning you guys close transactions with an escrow company, a title company, those title companies put on free classes all the time. A lot of them are appraisal classes. Go to Facebook and just find whatever title companies there are in your area, Fidelity, Stewart, American National, whatever. There's so many popular ones. Find the ones where you live and follow them on Facebook. Follow the business development manager, follow the title page. They post all of their classes. Take an appraisal class in your market. You're gonna need to know how to make adjustments for some of these things, okay? Let's talk about a pool. You guys, pools are not as valuable as you think they are. They will never, ever be as valuable as you think they are. Let me give you an example. I sold a house in Mesa, Arizona a few years ago. It had a $100,000 pool. This thing was the biggest pool you ever did see, deep. It had a grotto. Grotto is the one with the cave thingy in it. It had a cave, it had a waterfall, it had a slide, it had an outdoor shower. This thing was a $100,000 pool. You know what the appraiser gave it? $15,000. I even fought it. Went to the appraisal company, management company, and they were like, I was like, there's no way they're like, nope, the way it is. I've seen pools come in at $6,000. Okay. There could be a detriment too. If you have a house with a pool, but that thing is in disarray, the pool decking needs to be done. Maybe some of the interior pebble tech is chipping off and the pool equipment's old. Guess what? That's not just a zero value. Now you're at negative value. Why? Because it's going to cost money. So now you're negatively adjusting for that. Okay. You're gonna find out in your area, ask an appraiser, go to appraisal classes and find out how to make those adjustments there. You guys, contrary to popular belief, solar has zero value. I'm here to say it again. Solar has zero value. In fact, it is a deterrent. You're not gonna take money off for it necessarily, but it is a deterrent. If you bought a house, if you were in here and you bought a house and you put solar on it, thinking you just upped your value, you didn't. I don't care what that salesperson told you, sorry, but they are liars. They are salesmen. They lied to you. It's zero value even if you bought it and you own it outright and it's not a lease. Okay, so let's pretend like it's not even there. Last thing on here, again, I already talked about it, utilize the help of an appraiser. Guys, there's going to be one-offs that I didn't talk about, like houses that have, maybe an RV garage, or houses that have a barn, or houses that have living quarters above their garage. There's going to be a lot of one-offs there that I don't have a way to teach that. One, I don't know it. Two, even if I did, it would be super specific to Phoenix and not anywhere else in the nation. So it would be of no benefit to you. So I highly encourage all of you to start looking into how to comp property with an appraiser in your market. Okay, you can find the classes for free. And in fact, because of COVID, the likelihood is they're still doing, maybe not all of them, but some of them are probably still doing Zoom, live and Zoom, just meaning it would be live recorded. Maybe you can even watch it from home. Okay. I'm going to take just a couple minutes, actually, real quick, before I hop into Zillow to show you how I do this. So I do Zillow just so that you guys understand that I use the same playing field that all of you guys do. Yes, I'm a realtor here in Phoenix, but because I was a wholesale coach for a long time, I didn't want to have a leg up on anybody. And I'm going to show you how to do this on Zillow, how to find comps in there. But before I hop over there, I'm going to take just a minute or two to see if anybody has any questions about the content that I went through so far before I do that.
Any questions? So, Colleen, when you're in your state, are you typically using MLS data then?
Honestly, no. To be honest, I just hop on Zillow. It's faster.
Okay. Because I know when you get outside of your area, you're using Zillow a lot for comps.
It's the only thing I use.
Okay.
So outside of my area, I only use Zillow. Inside of my area, to be honest, I pretty much, it's so fast to do. It's so quick.
So there's a question in the chat, but it came and just direct to me, was PropStream versus Privy. You say neither, go right to Zillow?
Okay, I'm here to say just don't allow whatever software you use, whether it be Zillow, PropStream, Privy, any of those, whatever software that you're using, just don't let it choose your comps for you, meaning don't use this estimate, pretend like this estimate's not there. This estimate means Zillow chose your comps for you. Pretend like this estimate doesn't even exist, because it's going to be inaccurate and it's completely irrelevant to comping property. It means absolutely nothing, and I wish it wasn't there. Okay, so whether you're using Zillow, Privy, PropStream, Batch Seasoned, whatever software that you're using, I'm just here to say don't allow that software to choose your comps for you. Okay, you're gonna want to filter and to weed out the ones that sold 3 months, the ones that are the same construction as yours, the ones that are the same size, the ones that are not waterfront, the ones that are not gated or 55 plus community, or all of the things, different roofs and different construction style, siding versus brick versus all of those things. You should be the one choosing what comps on whatever software you're using. So I'm not here to say that any of them are any better than the other. I only use Zillow. I've never used the other one, so I don't have a comparison. All I'm saying is I do know for 100% certainty that none of them are doing these rules. They're just not smart. The software is not smart enough to do this. So you have to do this yourself. I'm also here to say, you guys, if you're planning on being in real estate, this is the single most basic thing that you can do in real estate. It doesn't matter what avenue in real estate you're going to go down. The number one thing and the most single important thing that you need to learn is how to comp property. It is your money. This is your paycheck, whether you do or don't get paid, whether you do or don't make money on an investment property that you bought. If you did not do your own due diligence to make sure that you're buying a property to find out what it's worth and that you're not overpaying for it, okay? So all I'm saying is, it doesn't matter which software you're using. I'm okay with you guys using whatever software you want. Don't allow it to choose the comps for you. You choose them yourself. I know there's a hand up, but I can't see. Go ahead and speak.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for all this. This is really super valuable. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
And also I was going to ask, like, when doing these comps, and I know you're kind of listing out like, okay, different construction style, size, siding versus brick, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. When you are presenting those comps to a potential investor, are you listing out that piece too, just to let them know, like, I know what I'm doing, or how do you do that? I'm just curious.
Okay, so I don't typically send anybody comps unless they ask.
Okay.
I don't typically do that unless asked.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I was just curious.
The reason why, I'll tell you why, it's because regardless of whether I include them or not, they're gonna look themselves. They're
Do
gonna
their
probably
own.
wrong,
Yeah.
right? They're gonna look themselves whether they are or are not there. So I don't typically go the extra step to include it. But if they
Gotcha.
come back and say, oh, I want to pay this dollar amount, and here's the 3-4 houses why, I can very easily say that's not a comp, this one doesn't work. And now I am going to say here it's actually these.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure. I'm gonna go ahead and hop on Zillow. I'm gonna show you guys how I do this. And then I got a little cool tool that I want to talk about at the end too, as to how I get the actual value. Like I'm showing you how to find the houses, how to find the addresses, but I haven't yet talked about how to actually get a dollar amount for your house, which I will do at the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop into Zillow. Let me show you how I do this on here. First and foremost, you guys are gonna wanna, I left all this up here on purpose. You're gonna wanna completely clear out all of your last search to make sure that nothing is accidentally clicked or set or whatever. So you're going to reset all filters and you're going to go ahead and make that blank. Okay, now we're starting at a blank slate. I have a particular one I want to show you. There's a reason why I use this one because it kind of shows most of the rules and as to why I do or don't do what I do or don't do. So this house right here in Gilbert, it's a few miles down the road from where I live. It is a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. I'm gonna move these out of the way a second. It's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2337 square feet. Okay. The first thing you guys need to do on any of comp that you're considering, particularly on your subject property, you're gonna want to take the time to read these dang descriptions. Okay, please. On your subject property and anything that you're thinking about, you might find something in here that's a little bit of a gem that you did or did not know about your own home, let alone some of the comps you're considering. Oh, it does have this, or oh, it doesn't. Oh, I didn't realize it had a pool because it didn't see anywhere else, type of thing. Okay, you're going to want to read this, read every word. You can find out on some of the ones that it's been rehabbed, it says something like investor special, but there's no pictures. You know that thing's a shithole. Okay, if that's what you're looking for, that's great. If it says completely rehab, but there's no pictures for some reason, oh, now you know that that's a rehab one and not a shithole. So this very valuable information can be in this particular spot right here, okay? Read every word. And then you're gonna scroll down a little bit further. You're gonna see right here, single family. This right here, you guys, I was a wholesale coach. People would send me comps and I would have to check them. And my eyes would cross because I cannot tell you how many times they sent me comps for a single family home that was like a mobile home. Or maybe they sent me mobile homes and the single family homes were the comps, or they sent me a multifamily home, but they didn't know, they did not think to know it was a multifamily property because they didn't think to ask, the seller didn't think to say, they just kind of assumed everyone knew it was multifamily home and nobody looked. The wholesaler did not look, okay? It says it right stinking here what it is. So make sure you know single family, multifamily, manufactured home, okay? This is the year it was built. It's got 3 parking spaces. You can see it's got 1, 2. It does have a 3rd garage over here. It does have an HOA. Sometimes that's important to know. Sometimes it's not particularly very important to know. But you're going to come down here where it says see more facts and features, and you're going to expand. Voila. There's a whole crap ton of information in here. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It says right here that it does have AC unit. I know in other parts of the country that does or does not. It's going to matter. You're gonna want to know in other parts of the country, not all houses have that. Okay, here you can't really get a loan on a house without one. Quite honestly, the lender will not even approve it. So you're gonna want to look there, see if it's got AC. If it doesn't have AC, this one does have heat. We do have furnaces here, believe it or not. You're just gonna scroll down. This is the parcel number. If you guys are ever looking for a parcel number, APN number, assessor's parcel number, assessor number, you're gonna find it in here. Okay. Right here where it says material information, roof, this does unfortunately say other. Okay, I can tell by this picture, these are tiles right here. Okay, I can very clearly see those are tiles. This is a tile roof. It does oftentimes say what this is. It will say tile, it will say shingle, it will say asphalt, which by the way is the same as shingle. It will say rolled, it will say, sometimes it'll say rubber, guys, that's gonna be your elastomeric, that's gonna be your rolled roof, okay? It will typically say here what the roof material is. Gonna scroll down. Oh, there's not a whole lot more information. It does, where does it say? Oh, property exterior features. I skipped over a very important one. Exterior features. This one says stucco. Okay, I know that stucco goes on top of wood frame home. I just particularly happen to know that because I worked in construction for a long time. This is a wood framed home. This right here is going to be, if you cannot tell what your house is, it's going to say it right here. It will say brick. It will say concrete. Concrete and sunblock is the same thing. It'll say wood framed, which this one is wood framed. This is just giving you exterior, the cover of the wood frame. Okay. It will say siding. Sometimes it'll say metal siding. Sometimes it will say wood siding. Sometimes it'll say vinyl siding. Okay. This is where you're going to find out the information of your home. It's very important that you go through the due diligence to find out what the heck your home is made of. Okay. So now we know the lot size right here is 9,000. Sometimes this is important, sometimes it's not. Depends on where you are in the country. Here in Phoenix, it is very important because land here is very, very expensive. So I'm not going to speak for everyone here. Some of you guys, this does not matter. Some it will. You're going to need to know your area. Okay. So that's about it for this house right here. Let me show how I find the comps. Pretty easy. If you X out of here, what's going to happen is it is going to pin drop. You're right here, right about the middle. I know it doesn't really have like an exact pin drop, but your house is right about the middle of this frame right here. Okay, it's right about where my hand is. You guys can see that, right? I don't want to know the house, but too, because I literally going to put it right in the center of that photo. So you're going to go to sold, which is already on sold. Okay, you're going to go. I do not do anything with beds and baths. I don't even touch it. Is it important? Yeah, it absolutely is. We already talked about that. I'll show you what I do with it, but I do not go in here. I do not pick a 4-bedroom and I do not pick a 4.5 bath. I don't do that. Okay. I do go to home type, deselect all, pick house. I do go to more and I do go to square footage. This house is 23 square feet. I'm going to go down to about 2,000. I'm going to go up to maybe 2,500. This right here, I am pigeonholed to what Zillow has to offer in terms of a filter. Okay, this is a little bit lower than 10% square difference down up, and this is a little bit lower than 10% square difference down. Do I know that I can go? Maybe not here. There's no room here. There's a little bit of room to go up in the 2,500. Okay, could I go to 2,570? Could I go to 2,800? Yeah, I can. Maybe 2,700, maybe. And I do know that I am just pigeonholed to what Zillow has to offer me in terms of a filter. So I'm going to leave it how it is. Okay. And hope for the best. Don't really mess with lot size too much. I don't really mess with the year built. Don't really mess with the basement number of stories. The reason why I don't mess with numbers of stories, you guys, is because a lot of the times the tax record's wrong. And this is going to be, what the realtor, if the realtor chose to click 2-story or not, it leaves it up to the other realtor's hands. I'm not going to do it. So I just leave it alone. And I go sold in the last 90 days. Apply. Then I'm going to zoom out. And look at all these houses that sold. Now I know this area because I live just a few miles down the road. I know that this house is right about here, it's right about here in between these two, right about there. Okay. I know that a mile is about here. It's about that. I just know because I know the area. So if you don't know the area, you're going to want to use, when I do things across the nation and I don't know, I have zero idea how much a mile is. I literally use MapQuest, and I'm not joking. I find some houses that I think might be comps and I pop them into MapQuest to see how far they are. I'm totally not kidding. It's exactly what I do when people ask me to help them with their comps. It is very time consuming, but I do it anyway. I'm going to change this to 6 months. The light back on. I'm going to change this to 6 months just to get a few more so you guys can have just a few more to look at, and then I'll show you what I do with it. Now I chose 6 months, to be quite honest. I'm going to go sort through these. I'm probably not going to go any further than 4 months if I'm being quite honest. So I know that this is about a mile right here, right? That's what I know. So I know that the houses that I've sold in this little circle that I'm making are going to be the ones that I sort through. So this blue line right here, this is the boundary. I do this one on purpose. This is the boundary line right here, okay? This is Gilbert, 8529, whatever the zip code was. This is Chandler. Totally different zip code, totally different city. You can literally throw a rock from this 645 house right here. I could throw a football. I know I could. And I could cross the county line, or I could cross the city line right here to Chandler. But these houses are not going to be your comps. Okay, it is important to know that. This is Chandler, this is Gilbert. This is a different zip code than this is right here. The school system changes as well, okay? So these, I'm gonna sort through these, and all I do is I click every single one of them, 4323 square foot. And I find the ones that are the closest to mine. I click on this one, 3222 square feet. This one, 570, 22 square feet, 633, it's a 2400 square feet. So far, that's the closest one. I just literally sort through them, 200 square feet, it's pretty close. And then I make sure that they're single levels. I manually, see how I'm manually choosing them? That's what you need to be doing. You want to manually choose the houses, whether this is Zillow, Realtor.com, Privy, PropStream, Batch Leads. You want to choose the ones that are going to be your comps yourself, okay? And you're gonna find the best, at least 3. You need at least 3. If you have 4 or 5, that's great. Write down the addresses, what they sold for, okay? And those are your 3, 4, or 5 comps. And then I'll show you what I do with them. I have this cool little tool right here. I call this the ARV calculator. This is particularly helpful for those of you guys who are wholesaling, because of steps 2 and 3, but just step 1 alone will get you what the value of your home is. Okay, so we talked about how to find them and how to adjust for them, but we didn't talk about how to actually get the number for your house. This is how you're gonna do it. You're gonna put in your subject property address right here. 1308 Bautista was the one that we chose for Gilbert. You're gonna choose the 1, 2, 3 addresses that you chose that were the closest to yours that recently sold. You're gonna put in the size of each one of those comps. So this is your subject property house. Again, you get these numbers are skewed. This is a different, I took the addresses out. This was an actual comp that I did for someone, okay? I just took all the addresses out. It wasn't necessary to keep them in there. So this particular property that I was looking at was 1575 square feet. I chose, this was a comp, this was a comp, another, a 4th and a 5th. You guys, you don't need the 4th and the 5th. The more the merrier, absolutely, okay? Need at least 3. You're gonna put in the square foot, you're gonna put in the number of bedrooms of each house, the number of bathrooms of each house, the year it was built, how far it is from your subject property, and the date sold. You guys, those, I didn't used to have these in here, but I added them to help keep you accountable, to make sure that you actually checked to see how far they were, to make sure that you hopped in there to see what year these houses were built. And you can see, oh shit, I picked a house that was 30 years older by accident because I didn't look, okay? This is to keep you accountable to what the rules are, date sold, and the dollar amount that they sold for, okay? It's going to automatically kick out $1 per square foot that all of these houses sold for. You see the top line is blank. Why? Because, well, distance is 0. It hasn't sold yet. There's no sold price yet. No dollar per square foot yet, okay? But these other ones do. 194, 197, 200, 197, 200. If you guys pop in your sold prices around here, I'm gonna tell you something that's a red flag. And you have one outlier or 2 outliers. Let's say one in here is like 500,000, or maybe one in here is like, 200,000, and it's massively different than all the rest. Then you did something wrong. They're not going to be all that different from each other. Okay, not really. These right here should all be pretty stinking close. Why? Because you found 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 houses that were all similar in condition on top of the rules that I taught in terms of size, location, material, all of the things we've already talked about a few times. You also, the reason why this is so close together right here is because they're all the same condition as each other. These are either all shitholes or they're all rehabbed, okay? The difference is if you have a rehabbed house and they're all shitholes, you do make an investment, and we'll show you how to do that. So this is going to spit you out right here, an average dollar per square foot. And it's going to be what your house is worth right here. In this scenario, this house that I comped for this person, these were all the comps in the area. This is what that person's house is worth. This top one, this one right here, your subject property is worth 311 in this particular scenario. Okay. For those of you guys that are wholesalers, these are all going to be shitholes. right? Why? Because that's what you're looking for. That's what your buyer's looking for. So in this example right here, you go down to step number 2 and you look to see how much rehab does it need? Light, medium, heavy, down to the studs. I've already done the math behind them all. You can see the math I'll show you. This right here, you can see up here at the top line is $18 a square foot for light repair. Light medium is about $30 a square foot. Medium is about $40 per. You can see it up here. You can see the math right up here. Okay. Medium heavy is about $50 a square foot. Heavy is about $65 a square foot. That thing is down to the studs. You're looking at about $80 a square foot. It's going to do the math for you on what the repair amount is going to be. It's going to come over, spit out an offer to your seller. For those of you that are wholesaling, okay. In this scenario, maybe the house needs medium work. We're going to do this line right here. Maybe the house needs medium work. Maybe you're hoping for a $10,000 paycheck. That means your offer to the seller is $144. Why? Because the repair value after it's been fixed and flipped is $311. You got to pick it up for $144. I'm going to put 60 into it. I'm going to sell it for $311. Okay. I'm sorry, it's going to sell for $311 on the market. You're going to sell it to your buyer for $154 right here. And this line. So in this scenario, after repair value, that means, you guys, that means after it's rehabbed. Okay, after it's rehabbed, it can sell for $311. And a medium repair, you got $63,000 as a repair. You're hoping for a $10 paycheck. Your offer to your seller is $144.7. You can sell it to your buyer for $154.7. Okay, but for those of you guys that are not wholesaling, 2 and 3 is only for wholesalers. Step number 1 is just to put all of your comps together for your house to find out what your house is worth right here. I have on here this little handy thing. I put the rules right here. Some of them I send, not even all of them, so that you can just take a look at it while you're doing this too. Distance, sold within 5 years, sold within 6 months. Construction style, number of interiors, very important. Single level to single level, you guys can never do single level to 2-story. Okay. So this is a fun little handy calculator that I super duper love. Jane, sorry if that's been up forever. I just saw it. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. You have so much to share. It's really fantastic. I've developed 2 questions.
Sure.
My first one is, when you're determining distance, you said, you use MapQuest, right? Makes sense. I use Google Maps, whatever,
Sure.
but like I'm looking at property in a mountainous area. And so there's no direct line, right? Like you could have 2 houses right like this, but if you do like the distance and the map, through Google Maps, it's 2 miles, right? Because you're
Right.
doing the curvatures. How do you handle bird's eye view?
I don't. So in something like that, I call that an outlier. Something that's a one-off. I would call that a one-off.
I suppose you don't really have that in Phoenix, but you
No,
certainly
not so
have
much.
the mountains of California, and you'll
but
have
even in-
entire communities and cities that are like that.
Sure, but even in a lot of mountain towns, the houses are a lot of time are condensed into one. You're talking, these are like communities. I'm talking, these are houses in communities, right? So the question that you're asking,
You're talking about planned communities, but not
be-
all areas are planned communities, right?
So your question would be like going back to getting yourself educated on with the appraisers in your area and what they have to teach. You're going to want to do that there.
Okay, fair enough. My other question is, I'm new to all of this, so my head's still trying to figure out like how to judge a rehab. How do you determine the difference between a light, medium, and heavy rehab?
Sure. I used to have on here, I would spell out light would be carpet paint, light medium would be carpet paint, some drywall, maybe some landscaping. Medium would be, cabinets, all of the things. They would just be all adding, would be, maybe kitchen cabinets, but also would include the light and medium. It would just be a gradual thing. But I noticed with people was holding it, they were holding it so tightly, so tightly wound to every syllable that I was like, it's not quite that. I will tell you this, you're going to make some mistakes. Okay. And that's really going to be how you end up learning to get accurate at it. So it's going to be a learning curve. I can tell you, one, it's always going to be more than you think. It'll never be less than you. It'll never once be less than you think. That's first and foremost, okay? Secondly, it isn't really, there's not a very set hard rule between any of them. I think that if that house is in massive disarray, you're going to do yourself a favor and go medium, heavy, or heavy. If it doesn't look to be too terrible, you're going to probably look at maybe light, medium, maybe somewhere in between. It's also too, you guys, you can do the math on the in between, right? It doesn't have to be one of these 6. Maybe it's somewhere between 2 and 3. And see, I have it on here on purpose that you can see the math up here. You see this line 17 is $30 a square foot. Okay. Line 18 is $40 a square foot. If you got something you think is in the middle, do the math yourself at 35.
No, but that's really helpful just to give me an idea of how to judge light, medium versus heavy. I mean, clearly every situation is going to be different. And I understand you don't want to give people advice that sends them down the river, so to speak. But
more, I don't want you to hold it to an exact, because there is no exact. It's really more that. It's more that than anything. You can hold me to my words. Just know that those words also include saying it's not exact.
yeah, I see someone said you can ask a contractor for an estimate, but sometimes that's really hard in Los Angeles to get a contractor.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Coming
I know,
to your property.
yeah, I see that get thrown out there a lot, and I promise you, you are not making yourself any friends by calling contractors and asking them for free estimates and then not talking to them ever again just to get a dollar amount in here. Not making any friends there. I would highly suggest to not do that unless you have a friend contractor in your back pocket, and you can do what I would call a desk estimate, meaning you just send them pictures and video and they're like, yeah, it should be around 50,000, right? I would call that a desk estimate. And that's if you have a friend that's willing to do that. I would not ask a stranger to do that for free for you.
Yeah, very hard where I live.
I think Shane liked that.
Thank you.
I know that was a lot of info in a very short period of time. And I also know that I can talk pretty fast sometimes. I'm so sorry if that got jumbled. I wanted to make sure I got to the end, because it would not make any difference to have done any of it if I couldn't get to the end.
It's been fabulous, Colleen. Appreciate you.
Sure. Anybody else?
Do you share your spreadsheet with the team?
Yeah. I also too can share what I call my comps basics that just had all of the words spewed on there. I used to have visuals. I actually made a really cool visual to go through that. I'd had it for a company that I was, again, wholesaling for, and it went kaput dang near overnight, and I did not have access to the drive that had that on there. So that used to be a more visual than it is now.
It's amazing. Great job.
Stevie, you got something for me?
So again, Colleen, when you're looking at your comps, because you kind of have, especially if you're looking at wholesaling or fix and flips, right? When you're buying a house that needs work, your comps all need to be houses that need work. Unless you're trying to establish your ARV, then you look at houses that have been rehabbed. Is that correct?
Okay, so yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to touch on this because I wasn't quite sure the level of everybody's knowledge on here. So I'll go ahead and answer your question. And I hope that I really don't confuse everybody sitting here. There are actually 2 ways to do this. If this is the wholesale situation and you have a shithole, okay, there are 2 ways to do this depending on your market. I'm going to use Phoenix as an example because it is something that you can do here. So in a very populated market where there's a crap ton of movement, you can do this there. You can do it one of 2 ways. You're going to be taught from everybody in the investment world that there's only one way, there's 2. They're going to teach you the only way to do it is to find the rehabbed version of your shithole and to run numbers based on that. And there's an equation, which I actually have written down here. If you guys can still see that. Am I still sharing my screen? Yes, I am. You guys can see this, a little equation right here. Max allowable offer equals ARV times 70 minus repairs minus assignment fee. Everybody's going to tell you that is the only way to do it. It's not. It's one way. It is an accurate way. But there is a second accurate way to do it. Okay, it is, if you're in a market like Phoenix, people in areas that are fix and flips are very heavily happening. You can very easily find 3 shitholes that just sold without having to find the rehab, nice, beautiful version of your home and having to go through the rigmarole of how much repair does it need? How much do I think it's gonna, right? How much do I think someone's gonna want to put into it, and do all the math and run through the equation and do all of the numbers? You don't have to do that. In Phoenix, you can very easily find 3 shitholes that just sold just like yours. And what you're gonna do is you're just going to do step 1. You're not going to do step 2, you don't need it. You're not going to do step 3, you don't need it. You're just going to do step 1, and it's going to spit you out a number right here that you can sell your house for today to an investor right this second. And all you do, instead of doing the math, is you just get that seller under contract for any dollar amount under that. As this sits, an investor will pay $311. If you found 3 shitholes just like yours that just recently sold, and you pop them into this little calculator, it's telling you right here, an investor will right this moment pay $311 for that house. And all you do is get that seller to agree to sell it to you for any dollar amount less than that, 300, 290, whatever you can get them to agree to, and you sell to investors today for $311. They'll buy it, I promise you. So there are 2 very accurate but different ways to do that. Please don't let anybody else in the investment space tell you there's only one way. There's not. I get a lot of pushback on that, you guys. I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you I'm not wrong.
I know when they do that elephant challenge, they use Privy. That's kind of the method they look for, is you can actually go out and find data of houses that have been fixed, back into the data to find out who's doing the repairs.
Yeah.
Find a contractor who's buying the houses at a certain price, certain neighborhoods. So now you know what they're looking for. Go find one and then call them and say,
Yep.
I have a house that looks just like one you just did on Johnson Street. Would you like to buy it from me?
Yeah, if you're in a super populated market with a lot of movement, it is very easy to do that second way that I taught you, and it takes all the math out, it takes all the guessing work out. If you can do that, do that. If you can't, that's okay. The other way, they're both accurate, just in different ways.
Well, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Again, I know you're really super crunched with time. So I've been like doing everything I can to not talk.
Guys, I plan on, because there weren't very many people in here, 1, because the time changed not too long ago, 2, the time sucks. I know it does. Sorry about that. So I'm going to probably put another one of these on the schedule, but we can get more people in here. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm also probably going to put on schedule how to, is very different, how to value multifamily portfolios, multifamily structures, apartment complexes, things like that, because it's not like this.
That would be fabulous. Everybody would appreciate that. Yeah, because it is not apples to apples comparisons. Process is very different.
Mm-mm.
Hopping from market to market. As we're looking at Phoenix versus Detroit, you see, besides the physical locations, you know, some of the things that, you know, that don't cross certain roads in certain neighborhoods. Other than that, is there much difference?
Not really. There's a lot of movement in Detroit, actually. I will say something about Detroit, though, and I call that a super depressed market. And it's really because houses are so stinking cheap. You can pick up a house cheaper, you guys, than a used car, I swear. Okay. So I'm going to call that a super depressed market. Here's what I would want you to do if you're going to target somewhere like a Detroit. Okay. Just because the house is a shithole and it's super cheap does not mean there's actually a market who's for somebody who wants to pick that up tomorrow from you. What you want to do is to go onto Zillow or whatever software that you have and see if there are flips that have recently sold in the area. If there are, that means they got buyers buying in the area, but they're not buying in all areas of Detroit. Some of those areas are just too run down that it's not worth their time and their money. And let me give you an example as to why. Most investors are looking for a percentage of profit, okay? They're not really necessarily looking for a flat dollar amount, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, doesn't really work that way. They're looking for a percent of profit. And if they're picking up a house for $20,000 and after they fix it up, they can only sell it for 100 grand, 90 grand, the percentage on that is this. But if they did that in Phoenix, or that same house would have sold for 350,000 and they could have put it on the market for 500, that same percentage now is this, right? But the same amount of time was spent. So it's like, where do they want to, do they want to spend 3 months to make, 12,000, or do they want to spend 3 months to make 50,000? So you have to really think about that and do some due diligence and see who's buying there, if someone's buying there. Same amount of time spent and paychecks are way different, right?
So again, that going off and into the rural areas and trying to find comps, you're really running into a couple of different problems. One, you can't find comps, but two, how are you going to find buyers?
So that was one of the things that I took out of my little condensed version today was that, and I was torn on whether I was going to take it out or not. If there are wholesalers sitting in here right now, if you are a wholesaler, I promise you, you are not doing yourself a favor by targeting rural properties. Okay, there are no comps to be found and there are no buyers in the area, and you're going to spend more time and spin your wheels. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm saying I would highly recommend that you don't. Pick a market, and it doesn't need to be local to you. I'm also here to say that most wholesalers don't work their local market. That just ends up being the truth. Okay, pick an area that's highly populated. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of buyers. Doing yourself a favor, because the entire wholesale process can be done virtually. Even if you're doing it local, you can still do it virtually. You don't have to show up anywhere. You don't have to be in person anywhere. So the amount of work is the exact same. So you're just going to do yourself a favor and not necessarily go out into rural areas. You're just doing yourself a disservice. Jane.
I know you're talking specific too.
One other question that happens.
Want to look at.
One other question that happens a lot in a place like dense, like Los Angeles, garages getting converted. Does that factor? How do you factor that?
Okay.
Like a garage that's been converted and to a full office or apartment or whatever.
Okay, so a couple of things. The full office, the full apartment, if it's above the garage, all those types of living things, I'm not here to say how you do or don't adjust for those. Again, you're going to want to talk to an experienced appraiser in that area and how you make an adjustment for that, because there 100% is an adjustment. And even if I knew that answer for Phoenix, it's going to be different than LA anyway, so it wouldn't do you any good. Okay, so the answer is for something, again, one-off, the questions like that, you want to talk to an appraiser. But let's talk about additions and garage conversions and
that's
like
what I'm talking about. Garage conversions. Yeah.
So if it is technically living space, let's talk about what that is, guys. I worked in construction for a long time. People turn their back patios into living space, and it's not. They turn their garage into a living space, and it is not. They did not raise that concrete 3 feet or 3 inches. They did not add an insulation to the walls. They do not have heating going through the freaking attic into the garage, into their living. They're not doing that. That means it is not technically living space. It's not. They call it that. It is not. I'm telling you, they got to raise the concrete. They got to add insulation. They got to get ductwork above the garage. All of those things. They got to have an egress. It's got to have a window. It's got to be able to open. Okay. There are things that make it an actual permitted space. If they don't have those things done, it is not a permitted space. It is not included in square footage, and there will be a $0 value added for that.
Thank you.
That was a very passionate answer. I didn't mean to be so like, I realize now what I sounded like. But it does have to have those things. It's got to have an egress, and the window's got to open. It's got to have, ductwork coming through the ceiling. It's got to, the concrete had to open and raise. There's got to be insulation for it to be technically, technical living area. And if they didn't go through all of those things, it's not, and there's no dollar amount added to that. Janet.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
So if the comps that are on a house, the only ones that you can find were sold back in, say, April or June of last year, how do you calculate that as far as pricing and things of that nature? Okay,
so I would venture to, number one, say that they are not comps and you shouldn't use them at all. But if you're going to use them anyway, again, you guys are all about you can make your own decision. Whether the rule I say is whatever it is or whatever, you guys are all about, you're going to make your own decision. So I'm going to say that they aren't comps and you should not use them at all. But if you are going to, okay, I would make a solid adjustment, not for your subject property. And I did not teach how to make specific adjustments per house. It is you adjust it on the comp house. You don't adjust it to yours. So if that house sold for 300,000 back in April of last year when things were hot. Stevie, I'm not kidding when I tell you I'd probably take out 15%.
50%. Okay.
15.
15. Okay.
Yeah, I would probably, so that would be 30, that'd be 45,000. I'd say probably 255. And I'd use
Okay.
255. Please don't
Okay.
hold me to a hard rule on that, you guys. Because I'm saying not to do it at all, is what I'm saying. But if you're going to, I would probably make a solid 15-ish% adjustment on that. Okay.
And I was being, in April, I wasn't really using those numbers, but some of them were, July and August, and I did adjust, I think 6 to 10%.
That's probably fine.
Prices.
That's probably fine for June, July, August, September.
Okay.
But going back until April was still fall of last year, and things were still moving.
Yeah.
At least here in Phoenix, anyways. You guys, if you guys don't know, Stevie's here in Phoenix with me, so she's talking about our market here. So I don't know, again, anywhere else in the nation, maybe those numbers will be a little bit different. Okay, but here back in the spring of last year, things were still moving pretty hot and heavy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb.
I'm
right.
also going to say don't use them.
Okay. Yeah, we could definitely find comps here in Phoenix. This is out in Florida, but yeah. Okay, definitely adjust according like that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Colleen,
Great class.
Yeah, Shane.
on your maximal allowable offer formula.
Yeah.
That 70% of ARV's been the same generic formula for a long time. Given the current rate hikes again, are you recommending people reconsider that number?
Okay, so the answer to that question is yes, but it also can go both ways. Let me explain what I mean. So back when things were hot and heavy, and I'm talking 2001 and 2000, late 2000, half of 2000 to 2000, all the way through 2001. Okay, that number here in Phoenix, actually, guys, that could have been about 85. That could have been 85%. That's how competitive it was here. I had buyers in my back pocket that would pay 85. I had one that would pay 88%. That's how competitive they were. Okay, so that number can go either way depending on the market and how hot things are right now. This 70, I'd say, would be pretty neutral. Shane, right? I'd say 70 is neutral right now because the market's so volatile. It's a little bit unknown, and there are not nearly as many cash buyers as there used to be, and the ones that are have tightened their sphincters. Okay, I'd say that's probably closer to 60. I'd say it's probably closer to 60, to be honest. And it's really because the future, if it takes 3 or 4 months to rehab a house, we don't know right now what's going to happen in 3 or 4 months. So they're taking a big old risk here. So right now in the Phoenix market, that'd be about 60. 2 years ago, that was about 85. That's a big flip and swing.
In a short period of time, that's a big swing.
I would say 70 would be about a neutral number for a neutral market, though. You guys, if you don't know why, let me explain why. So this right here, for those of you guys who don't know what it means, max allowable offer means the highest number offer that you can give your seller. You cannot spend any more than this dollar amount for you to reap a paycheck. And if you do, you're just not going to get paid, and you wrap the seller up in a deal you can't sell. Okay, so that is the highest number that you can give this seller. It's going to equal how to find that dollar amount out. It's going to be your after repair value, which is right here. This is what your house can sell for after it's rehab, nice, beautiful, whatever. You're going to times it by 70%, and give me a second to get back to why 70%. Okay, and you're going to deduct this repair amount that you're estimating that it's going to take to rehab. Okay, and then you're going to deduct your hopeful dollar, your paycheck. That's the 10,000 right here. This is what you're hoping to make. All right, and it's going to spit out an MAO, max allowable offer. That's this dollar amount. This is the max you can give your seller to hopefully reap a paycheck if your numbers are right. You chose good comps and you're fairly accurate on your rehab costs. Okay, this is the most. This is max level offer right here. The reason why it's 70, which is why I started this conversation, so sorry to get is because most cash buyers that are fixing these properties are hoping for a 20% return on their money. Okay, whereas the other 10%, that 10% is going to cost them to sell the house. You guys, it is very expensive to sell a house. You got realtor fees, you got closing fees, you got that buyer's going to ask for home warranty. They're going to ask for seller concessions. If you don't know what that means, they're going to ask that seller to pay some of their closing costs. Okay, most likely. And so they're giving themselves 10% buffer to pay their realtor, pay all of their closing fees. It's typically closer to about 8%, if I'm being honest, typically closer to about 8%. But they're giving themselves a buffer here. Why? Because everything's more expensive than we ever think it will be. Okay. Particularly the repairs, they're giving themselves a couple percentage buffer there. But they're wanting to hopefully make 20% on their as their profit.
Yeah, in Arizona, we always get charged an extra realtor friendship fee. What is that?
Also, too, you guys, closing fees, I have learned since I became a wholesale coach, varies very drastically across the nation. It is very expensive here. Your closing fees, your escrow, your title insurance, you know, all of those little nicks and knacks that they ding you up at. It is very, very expensive here to buy and sell property. There are other states like Tennessee's not that bad. Illinois is not that bad. Mississippi's not that bad. Where there's, you're talking, it's a couple grand difference. And that's not going to lie. I mean, that's a lot of money difference when you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I see you have your hand up. You still have another question?
I think she might have still had it up. Janet, do you have another question for me?
Hi, did you call me before?
No, I think your hand was still up. I was just making sure you didn't have another
No,
question.
you confusing Janet with Jane. Jane asked lots of questions. Janet's asking her first one.
I'm
Yeah,
so sorry, Janet. Janet, go ahead.
and we're good friends, and that's why I'm here is because of Jane, but I'm a different person. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you, Jane. Anyway, I'm just wondering if you are offering this calculator because it's really handy dandy and
I can't get it out tonight. But what I will do is I'll post it into the Cindy and Shane growth, the Cindy and Shane group. Yeah, no problem.
that's really great. I really appreciate it. It's interesting that because I know somebody you're in Phoenix, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know somebody in Phoenix who's been saying that it's like if it's a serious rehab that it's $40 a square foot, and you're saying a serious rehab is $80 a square foot, which sounds more on par with what I was thinking. I would think even in Los Angeles it's even maybe going to $100 a square foot or
Absolutely.
more.
So I base these numbers off of Phoenix. This is going to change. That was one of the things that I took off of the things I wanted to talk about today, just because I was on a time crunch. But those numbers will change across the nation. Absolutely. Yep. If you go into Missouri, probably going to be cheaper. Arkansas, probably cheaper. California, much more expensive. Washington, much more expensive. Absolutely. Yep.
Do you have any sense of what it is in California? Or
No, you're going to want to ask maybe a general contractor. You can ask a general question to general contractors. Maybe you could even hop into like a Facebook investor group in the local market and say, hey, GCs, general contractors, hey, what dollar per square foot are you seeing for a full rehab right now? 80, 90, 100, like what are you seeing right now? They're gonna know.
yeah, that's a great suggestion. I like that because that's been something that's been really boggling my mind. But yeah, this is a great calculator. Your information is amazing. You do talk really fast. There were the entire moments I was not sure what you were saying, but that's more probably me being a slower person. But I'm really impressed and I'm really grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to do another one where I have just a little bit more info and you can speak a little bit slower.
My other question I just remembered was, are these things recorded? I'm just new to that Facebook group. So are you one of the main people who runs the Facebook group, or are you a different?
No, that's just Cindy and Shane. I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah, so this is recorded and it will be posted in the Facebook group.
Okay, thank you.
All the people out. Oh, there we go.
I don't know who's who right now. Anyway, hi.
Hello.
Are you
recorded?
you
We'll post it in
Shane?
the Facebook group later.
Are you Shane?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. Anyway,
Nice to meet you.
Well, this is really kind service that you guys are offering to people. It's really great. I'm really impressed. Thank you.
You are very welcome. I also too wasn't quite sure how many wholesalers we had in here versus how many people were just looking for other types of things. So I was trying to be as generalized as possible, which slowed me up a little bit when I was talking. I was like, do I want to say this or not want to say this? Because the dynamic in the group is, I'm used to having just all wholesalers. Not that the rules ever change, but the things I was talking about would have. So.
Well, I would say I'm a wholesaler right now who wants to get into doing sub 2 wraps eventually to get cash flow. But, I still have yet to make my first deal. But I thought that, what you said about comparing 3 crappy houses makes perfect sense to me, and so much better, because if you're trying to look for, there are so many different levels of rehab, right? And you're not necessarily going to find comps at the same level, and you don't know what your cash buyer's level of rehab is. So that was always bothering me. So that made so much sense to me. Thank you very much for that. I just look at so many crappy houses every day, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm possibly going to find a comp for this.
That small little tidbit right there, if I'm being honest, over the year, a little bit more that I was a wholesale coach and I was teaching this, to be honest, that ended up being one of the biggest takeaways for a lot of people, because nobody else is saying that. Nobody else is saying that in the investment space, that you can do that. In fact, I get a lot of pushback sometimes when I do say that. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just not wrong. And I'm not trying to be, egotistical or whatever. I'm here to tell you that you can do that. I've worked in real estate for 12 and a half years. I'm here to say that you can absolutely do that. And it's easier if your market supports it.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Colin, did we keep it to your time frame?
Yep, I got to get out of here. Sorry, guys. I have a baseball game to get to.
Well, again, thank you
you.
for your time. Greatly appreciate you.
I will pop this into the Facebook group. I'll put another class on schedule, and I'll also do the multifamily somewhere eventually. I'll throw that on schedule too.
Thank you, Colleen. You're the best.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, and if everybody else is still around, we do have our regularly scheduled Zoom at 7, so 7 Eastern, that is. So please join us.
Is it the same Zoom or do we use different
We're
Zoom?
bringing Third Mind REI guys back. It's Jesse and Chris James. And so we're gonna be talking about creative real estate.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. But
Yeah,
we
it'll be
don't use
fun.
the same Zoom link, right?
I think Cindy has a different Zoom link posted.
Okay, great.
You
All
want
right,
to
see you
grab it real
later.
quick and post it here. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, let me grab it because I'm in the Zoom.
I can grab it off the website. That's
Yep.
fine. All right, sounds good. I'll see you later. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
bye.
Bye-bye.